And Velvet, if you could hit the record on it.
The October 12th, 2021 Committee on Ways and Means is now called to order. I will call on Councilwoman Jackson for our invocation.
Thank you. Please let us pray. Lord God, you are the provider. You are the healer. You are the giver of all that we need and all that we can imagine. We ask that you be the beneficiary of this city as we serve our citizens. Help us to make wise decisions and to never lead your presence. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Item 2.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion with regard to the September 28th, 2021 minutes? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Bids and purchases? Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All in favor say aye with regard to bids and purchases?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 4, Budget, Finance, and Revenue Collection. An ordinance to provide for the issuance and sale of not exceeding $11,500,000 general obligation refunding bonds.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion, question? I'll start with Councilmember
Yes,
Griffin.
I was just hoping to get a little bit of clarification on this item.
It's a 2014 general obligation bond. Savings would be around, I think, $800,000. You're welcome.
Councilwoman Jackson.
Thank you. That was my question as well.
Okay. Any more questions or discussions on item 4? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item
Mr.
5.
Chairman, could we take taking up 5 through 9, because all,
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Do we take 5 and 9 together? Any discussion or questions? 5 through 9. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 10,
I'll move for approval.
moved and properly seconded. Any discussion with regard to the stormwater management item number 10? If not, all in favor, say aye.
aye.
The ayes have it. Item 11, stormwater
Second.
management. Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on item 11? Not, all in favor say aye. The ayes have it. Item 12,
Move for
housing
approval.
and community development. Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on item 12? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 13, police department approval.
Second.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion on item 13? If not, all in favor say aye. I'm sorry.
Aye.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
just wanted to give a shout out. I think this is a wonderful idea, and I'm really glad that the CPD has found a good way of accommodating it.
Okay. Any further? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Item 14, legal department and ordinance to amend chapter 2, administration article 2, city council division 1, general section 2-21, salaries and expenses to be set by ordinance of the code of the city of Charleston, South Carolina, to change the salaries of city elected officials as hereinafter provided. This was requested by Councilmember Waring.
I'll move for approval.
What do we, is that consistent with the chart that we were given? Is that the 20,000? Which is it? What are we voting on specifically?
For discussion, doing it for discussion.
No,
I'll second.
first and seconded, okay. Can someone sort of give us a sense of, because I did see the comparison chart.
Yes.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. So based on the discussion from last meeting, HR, Legal, and Finance looked at other municipalities that are comparable in size to look at comparable salaries for their council members. And that was presented to you guys in a in a memo earlier last week. And just for the record of note, Mount Pleasant has a population of approximately 90,800. Their salary is 15,000. We've got North Charleston with a population of 114,852. And the council salary for North Charleston is 20,657. Then if you look at Savannah, they have a population of 147,000. And just bear in mind, Charleston presently is 150,227 as far as constituents are concerned. Savannah is at 25,000. So then we also looked at council salaries as to how they would look if they had been afforded the opportunity of the COLA advance from 2016 through 2021. And that's how we came to the proposed number that's on the draft ordinance presently of $20,131.99 for an annual salary as a recommendation.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear, because if I'm not mistaken, the initial proposal from Council Member Waring was 25,000.
Right.
Oh, okay, thank you. It was 25,000, and thank you, Ms. Copeland, for getting comparisons of the other cities, in particular Savannah. Savannah, from a population standpoint, comes as close to Charleston as any other city. Obviously, North Charleston is not quite 21,000, and they've got what, about 35,000 less citizens. I don't think this may sound selfish, but I think this is the hardest, and I include the mayor in this. This is the hardest working city council in the state of South Carolina. I don't think anybody works on the issues that we're having to work on, and frankly, bring the best of our intellect to solve the financial problems in a lot of cases. No other city is doing affordable housing what this city is doing. No other city has the issue of looking at a wall and a total water plan with issues of sea level rise. And those things aren't going to go away. It's continuing work. I don't think, even at 25,000, I don't think anybody can work out any financial calculation that says we get paid minimum wage. We get a W-2 form, but it's not based on minimum wage. The real issue that I brought this up for is I really don't believe to serve in a civic manner that you should either have to be in business, self-employed, well endowed, or retired on a pension that you use your pension to supplement your service. We've got a good many young people on this council. Everybody on this council shouldn't be gray-haired. But to say that 25,000 supplement is exorbitant, I'll speak to anybody in my district that I'm pleased to serve to explain why that, I think, minimum number should be there in the event that a person that works in the stockroom of a grocery store should be able to serve on council. I just described Councilmember Lewis, who served for 24 years, and I don't think anybody could say his service was bad or poor. He was exemplary. He stayed walking on the sidewalk and kept his ear to the ground. Councilman Saccharin has a big challenge. I'm sure he'll agree with that. So I think Savannah has it right, around 25,000 for around 150,000. And when North Charleston and Mount Pleasant, the way they're growing and they get up to 25,000, get up to 150,000 citizens, I think that would be the right number. So I appreciate the cost of living aspect that got us, I guess, close to North Charleston, but our charge is larger.
And no one has any idea how much time it really takes to be a full-time council member in this city. It's unbelievable. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
on the
did we
issue?
ever get a second?
No. You did do a second on the 20.
Yes,
We did a second on 20.
I think she's-
I'd like to amend it to 25,000 if you agree.
I just seconded for the discussion purpose.
He amended his to 25,000. Do I hear a second? It's been seconded. Any further discussion? Yes? Councilman Thacker.
So we had there was an amendment.
Yes, the amendment is to 25,000. Seconded. Councilmember Griffin? Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, Councilmember,
Repeat the amendment?
pardon?
please? Can you repeat the amendment?
The amendment is to increase it from 20,000 to 25,000.
Keep the COLA?
Well, it was actually calculated using COLA. If we had gotten the COLAs, it would come to the 20,000. I think what Councilmember Waring is saying, that's great to do, but however, it should be 25,000, consistent with a city of our size, which is Savannah, okay, which has a population of 147,000 people compared to our 150,000 people. So the amendment was to change it from 20,000 to 25,000 and don't base it on the COLA. If I'm not
Okay,
mistaken.
I thought,
Turn your mic on.
I'm
Can't
sorry.
hear you.
I'm sorry. I thought that the ordinance we were voting on with the beginning salary number of 20,131 would then increase or correspond to what any COLA changes would be going forward. So is that true of the 25,000 amendment?
Well, that's correct. Right now, the way the ordinance is written, Section E would implement a COLA increase beginning 2022. So you would start, the way it's amended right now, you would start with a salary of 25, and then a COLA increase would be added to that figure starting in 2022 as well.
Yes,
Thank you. That's what I was asking.
thank you for the clarification. Councilman Griffin? I'm
Thank you so
sorry,
much.
further explanation
I'm
from?
sorry, Councilman Griffin, just one
Go
other
ahead.
thing too. If we're going to amend the council salaries, you might want to consider amending the mayor pro tem provision in here as well.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it clearly. That's Mayor Pro Tem, okay, okay. Did everybody hear that? For the Mayor Pro Tem, it would be $2,000 above the base salary of 25,000. Just that time in service, yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Any, yes,
I've
I'm
got some
sorry,
comments I'd like to
Councilmember.
make if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I'm really glad that we're talking about this today because it's appropriate with the fact that we just had a budget workshop and looked at what the rest of our employees are making, looking at the fact that we are significantly understaffed, and looking at the fact that even this year, and thanks to some help from the federal government, we're only able to give a very menial improvement in pay to all of our employees. Meanwhile, we're looking at percentages that if we were to hand that out elsewhere, we would be shocked. 15% if we go with the cost of living adjustment, and well over 30% if we jump the pay up to 25,000. Now, I know nobody on this council uses this as a job, and I mean, most of us probably, the little bit of money that we get out of this, we try to dedicate it back into public service in some way, shape, or form. When I ran the first time, I didn't even know this was a paid position. I was pleasantly surprised when it was, but I think that we're all very, very lucky that we have the most amazing benefits and health insurance that we could possibly have by being on city council and being with our group here. I mean, that in itself is a significant amount of money that we're saving when we go to the doctor or get our eyes checked or get our teeth cleaned. I am not going to support raising our salaries at all. I think that a cost of living increase a couple years down the line and getting back in line with the rest of our employees makes sense. But to jump our salary up 15% or more when we cannot do anything like that for our city employees right now is just a terrible look. I mean, right now there's this just horrible lying ad going on around me saying that I want to cut the police and fire department pay, which is just a total lie. And at the same time, there's just so many ways that we could try to find ways to invest money back into those budgets. I'd never, ever want to cut their pay. And I certainly hear it from them whenever I have people from the fire department calling me wanting to know why they're getting such a small increase and we're getting a much bigger one, or even talking about it. So there's no way that I'm going to support this tonight. I would do this job for free. And I think if we can keep our salaries where they're at right now and try to invest more money back into our employees' pockets so that we can help them pay for groceries and maybe even live the dream of living in this city, because most of them do not, that to me means a lot more than a few more bucks in my pocket. Thank you.
Thank you for that. You still give your salary?
I have donated several checks to the city this year because I wanted to try to help during the crisis this year.
Right.
I know
And-
that we were looking at a significant shortfall, and anything we can do to help, I know we all try to do that. Thank you.
Okay, and I think that you're fortunate to be able to do that, but everybody can't. And I think that's the issue that we're trying to make sure that anyone who wants to serve on council, regardless of their income and salary, would have the opportunity to do so if we put that salary at a point where they can. So that's the purpose. Councilmember Shea?
Yes,
I'll
sir.
come
So
down there then.
as I'm listening to folks, and this is a very good discussion, and I appreciate Councilwoman Waring bringing it to our attention before.
If you get closer to the mic.
All right. So I just did, and maybe Amy or Julia can help me with this and make sure I did this properly. So I just took the salary of a sample of cities. For instance, if we take Wilmington's salary, which is $14,490, and divide that by the population, that represents 12.5%. So in other words, the amount of the salary versus the population is a 12.5 ratio. If you do Mount Pleasant, it's 16.5%. North Charleston is around 18%, and Savannah is 17%. For us, it's 11.6%. And so that may not be a very scientific way of comparing what we're getting paid as a stipend versus the population, but it does put it a little bit in perspective that we're at the very bottom when you do a ratio between the people that we're serving and the stipend that we're receiving. And, Councilmember Griffin's raised some good points about this concerning the messaging that we're trying to send to our employees. Because I get those calls from the fire department. I've got firemen in my district who are complaining. And we did make an adjustment in 2017, I believe, if I'm correct on that, with an overall salary adjustment and the cost of living. But the Councilmember Waring's point about this should not be a negative. None of us here are working because this is the money that we receive. That's not the purpose of any of this stuff. If we are, I think we're in the wrong business. If you think you'll get rich being on city council, you're in the wrong business. That's not why we're here. And to me, this doesn't make any difference how much money is left in my pocket, regardless of whether we do this or not. But what I don't want to happen, and this election cycle is already happening, so it's not going to impact this election cycle. But I don't want to discourage anyone from serving on city government and city council because they see this as a negative. And that really bothers me. Because it is a huge dedication of time on our part. And I'm able to do it because I'm a sole practitioner and I'm my own boss. I mean, I've got my clients I've got to answer to, obviously, who fuss at me from time to time of getting back in touch with them. But I'm able to do this job, not because of the pay, but I'm able to do it because I've got the flexibility, a little bit, not getting judges mad at me for not showing up for hearings. But for the most part, I'm able to do this in spite of what this may be. But I don't want somebody being deterred because this is going to have a great impact or a negative impact on them. And that's I'm looking at it from an equity standpoint and the fairness standpoint. That's what we're trying to do here. It does bother me. I'll be honest with you. It does bother me to the point that Councilmember Griffin has brought up about how this appears to those particular other employees. But I think that what we heard from Amy earlier today is that we've got to make some hard choices and some hard decisions about our budget coming up to address that. And this is not a but for, we're selection option A or option B, that we don't take care of our staff. We've got to make some really hard decisions on what we're going to do this budget year about getting our staff employees the pay that they are completely entitled to. And we've got some very dedicated, some very dedicated city employees and some very dedicated first responders who do the job because, I guess, for some of the same reasons we're doing this job. They love their community. So I'm going to support this. I think this is probably the right thing to do. It's unfortunate that we're kind of caught ourselves into this mix of what we're addressing here, but I think this is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Councilwoman Del Chapo, and then Council Member Saccharin. Who is first? Okay. Councilmember Del Chapo.
Mike. We have to hold it down. Oh, okay, well, that's comfortable. Sorry. I appreciate that Councilman Waring brought this up to begin with. And it's rare across all levels of government to see a young female holding office. And one of the biggest reasons is because of the pay. Typically, I don't have any other income coming into my family except for what I bring in. That's it. There's no spouse, there's nobody else, there's me. And I understand the sacrifices that are involved in that. But when I see the issues that we're having with staffing in our core city services, I can in good faith increase my own salary when that money could be used, hopefully it could be used to maybe pay our sanitation workers some more money, or some of those employees who are leaving because they can go do the exact same job for another company for a whole lot more money. And our jobs, I think, would be a lot easier if some of those core services were properly staffed. We wouldn't have our citizens as upset and reaching out to us because some of these things are not being taken care of because of such a severe lack of personnel. So I think that there will be a time when the COLA is appropriate for elected as well. I don't think now is that time. I think there's other people in our city who need to be taken care of, and we need to keep those departments properly staffed so we can uphold our commitment of providing basic core municipal services that are taking a hit, most notably as a result of pay. And we can somehow start to change that narrative. Increasing our salaries by a few thousand each person, I'd rather a sanitation worker get a few more $1,000s a year than me. And so I think it's not the wrong conversation to have. I think maybe just not right now. And we get ourselves on the other side of some of these issues that we've been faced with the pandemic, et cetera, and then revisit this. But for tonight, I'm not in favor of it.
Councilmember Saccharin.
Thank you, Chair. Can you all hear? I just want to actually acknowledge and recognize Councilman Waring for putting this on an agenda. It's not a politically popular discussion item, so I will just provide a different viewpoint. I need the money. I'm not in a situation where I could donate my salary. I didn't run for the money, but we talk about recruiting the best and brightest here in Charleston. That includes our council members. You look at our state legislature, very similar system. Look at the makeup of our state legislature. You have to be an attorney, a doctor, private practice to run for state legislature because The pay is so low and it's a part-time gig. If we want to affect public education in our state, a teacher can't run for state legislature. I guess my point is, I agree with Councilman Waring 100%. If we want to diversify our council and make sure that women, minorities can run and be on council, this is part of that. This is part of making sure that our council is representative of the community. I had to make a very difficult decision when I decided to run. I have 3 jobs essentially, and it's been very difficult to balance that. Now I hear the concerns around it's not politically expedient or it's not popular right now because of the tax issues and the budget issues that we have as a council. I get that 100%. And I would not support this unless we made sure that we increased our hourly rates for our public service workers, our essential workers, fire, police. This doesn't have to be an either or. This should be an and. We are part of the team of the city. So I look at us as essential workers as well. And I think Councilman Waring made a very good point. The decisions we make could swing the balance of our budget millions of dollars. I want to have folks like Councilman Waring on my council that understand budgets. Because that single decision this past year with CPW, I believe, helped us bring in an additional, I can't remember the exact figure, but that was because of the expertise of Councilman Waring. So if we're talking about 17,000 or 25,000, the cost over the total year would be, a couple $100,000 to make that change. Now, we have to increase the salaries of our hourlies, our part-time, firefighters, police. I don't think it needs to be an exclusive either or. I think it's an and. And the last thing, again, I just want to say that, it's not politically expedient. It's not popular to say that I want to increase my salary. So I'm going to say that. I need that money. We're trying to recruit the best and brightest in our city. That includes folks on council as well. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Council member, and then the mayor, then Councilman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will not be supporting the amendment. However, I did want to just offer some thoughts on, in line with some of the other discussion that's gone on, should the amendment fail, if we kept the salary at 17.5, but left the rest of the ordinance to adjust it for the COLA, I think it provides a good incentive for us as a council. When we're looking at raising pay for employees, we would get the same cost of living adjustment. So it shows, to your point, Councilmember Sacchin, it shows we are part of the team, that it's not a 15% increase or a 40% increase. We're going up with what we can do for the employees. And I think that's the right message to send here, is not to have in one day a 40% increase for council members, but to say, going forward, what we can do for you is also done for ourselves. And so I'd like to offer that as an idea, should the amendment not be passed, that we stick with the language in the ordinance, but keep the pay at the current level.
Mayor?
So I want to be respectful to my colleagues on council, and I'm glad Councilmember Waring brought this up, and I think y'all are worth more than even the $25,000 with the time you put in. I was prepared to vote for the ordinance as presented because I do think it's fair to catch council up with the cost of living increases that we've already given to our employees, and then set you on that par, and myself for that matter, going forward, that as we treat our employees, we treat ourselves, as Councilmember Brady just mentioned. So I'll be voting against the amendment, but I would support the original ordinance. I just want to explain that and be respectful.
Councilmember Appel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think that there's been a lot of great points raised by everybody this evening. And I had the idea, sort of just sitting up here, that perhaps there's a way we could bundle this package with our budget. In other words, we can do what has been mentioned by several of my colleagues this evening, which is provide for our employees while making our adjustments at the same time. But now I'm cognizant of the fact that I believe this has to go into effect prior to the election for it to be effective, in 2022. So that might not be the right idea, but I certainly think there's been some good points raised. I tend to be more inclined for the original ordinance as presented. And that's not to say that this job does not deserve what Councilmember Waring suggested. It does and more. I can tell you this is a lot harder job than I thought it was when I signed up for it. And the fact of the matter is because, technically on paper, we're the legislative body of the city of Charleston, but I kind of feel like I'm part of the staff a lot of times. I mean, what do we do for the most of our job? It's fielding concerns and complaints from our constituents, getting them to the right people, serving as a facilitator. That's not what, is in the job description of a legislator typically, but that's what we do. We do a lot of this work, and it's not easy, but it's fulfilling and rewarding. And certainly, I personally, don't necessarily, need the increase, but I'm certainly cognizant and respectful of the folks on council that do. And I think another thing that hasn't been mentioned, and this is by no means a reflection of anybody that's up for office this go around on the even cycled seats, but there ain't a lot of people running for these seats right now. And you look across the river, in the town of Mount Pleasant, they got, I think, a dozen people beating down the door for, I think, 4 seats or something. So we do need to, be cognizant of the incentive structure here for folks. Maybe they've been coming to too many of our meetings and seeing what's been going on, but be that as it may. I think we got to increase the salaries for our employees. I don't like seeing 40% vacancies in our stormwater department. That is not cool. That is not the way to go. But I'm telling y'all right here, I'm going to fast forward to November and December. We're going to be talking about mills again around here. And we got to put our money where our mouth is if we want to staff up this city the way it needs to be. And we need to be honest, and we need to be, clear with our constituents about what it costs to receive good service. If you want bad service, you don't pay for it. If you want to receive good service, you got to pay for it. So I think we got to do all the above, and would prefer we go with the ordinance as originally presented today. Thanks.
Before we put it to vote, I'm supposed to be retired, but when I became a city council member, there's no such thing, guys. We're in October? And if I haven't done 120 or 130 meetings already, okay, I haven't done any. Given the kind of prep work alone that it requires that one puts in. Let me give you an example. I'm on a selection committee for the pump station. I got 4 binders like that today. I've got to learn the jargon before I even get started, which is going to take some time. We donate a lot of our time to the people of this city because we're all about serving the public. But it gets to a point, at least for me, okay, given the amount of time that it takes, I have to get help. I pay people using my salary to assist in implementing the city's policies. I don't get paid anything because without the people that assist me, the services rendered in District 6, it wouldn't happen. Because I'm so busy prepping for everything else, when the constituent calls and says, my ditch needs to be cleaned today, not tomorrow, or when we're having torrential rains, my house is flooded. They want action then. And these are not things that we can sit and ignore. These are things that will require us to go to the appropriate places in the city to try to get the kind of services that is being requested. I'm saying all that to say that given the sacrifices that this body makes for this city, $25,000 isn't much or anything to me in terms of the kind of work, dedication, and service that we provide to this city. If we were to work to rule, I don't know if anybody knows what that means. Old government people know what working to rule is. When you work to rule, you shut it down. You do an 8-hour day, that's it. We already have staff here that does not work to rule. They go beyond the rule. I mean, given the staffing shortages, in order for us to make our goals, they have to. So I agree that we need to also compensate staff. I'm not saying to do this and not do the other. I think we can do both at the same time. But I think $25,000 for what these people up here do every day is nothing. I mean, we have lawyers who make $400 an hour. Come on now. Dedicating their time and their service for this city. There are others up here, if paid, would be $150, $200 an hour. So when this body comes to this city and asks and requests an increase in salary, I think it should be honored. That's just my take. Now it's time to vote on I'm sorry, Councilmember Mitchell.
You know, I have heard the discussion from all my colleagues and, you know, I agree with everything that's been said. But the $25,000 we are talking about, and, you know, I'm not afraid to vote because it's going to be what it's going to be. But when we first started, and a lot of you all probably heard about it, but wasn't here to see it, City of Charleston council members always took less. From the time I was here since 1998, when I first got on council and stayed on a term and got off. We were getting $7,500. Then we went to 10, but we never go what other cities are doing. We always been behind everybody. And we always been behind our sister city right across the bridge, always, but did more. I have my friends up in North Charleston. I don't think you all hear about them that much, because I don't hear about them at all either. But they have less, they always had less residents than we have, but always received more, always did, ever since I was here. We went from 17.5 to 10. They were up to 13. Then we went to where we are now, and they still went to 20. And that was 2 or 3 years ago. So we were always behind, but we were the largest city doing more and more and more. We work a lot on this council, and I can tell you I work a lot. I'm always out in the community. I have all these RFP that we have. A lot of people don't even see that portion of it. The hours you spent with the RFP. You have to go one time to bring it down to a short list and then go back and again and work on again. That's a couple of hours. But a lot of the residents, a lot of people don't even see it. They don't know what's behind the scene, what the council members are doing. So we do a lot. You don't get vacation days. You know, our staff get vacation days. We don't get paid vacation. Where is that? Not for the council members. But if you want to get good young people coming on council, we have to do things a little differently. This is a new day, you know. So that's why I'm saying we have to look at it very seriously. We know the staff is out there. The staff need more money too. It's a shame, but we're paying the staff and some of our staff. But then we have to look at our department heads too. We're dealing with some of the staff that people are calling me, what I'm hearing about. And a lot of people are leaving, Mr. Mayor, because of that. They call me all the time. I'm out there. When they call me at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm out there. I answer the phone, I'm out there. And they're telling me what's going on, and it's a shame. We have to really get into a lot of these things with our staff also and find out what's going on with our staff and with our department heads, with some of the department heads that we have. I think we have to do more. But even with the increase, if we are talking about it, I think it's right now for the City of Charleston council members, it's due. We do a whole lot that people don't know what we're doing behind the scene. It's a lot of work. And I didn't run for no money because if you're getting 7,500, that was no money when I was working. Right now, you figure 17.5, and the work you're doing, and you count the hours that you put in, it's not even a match. So you're not really running for council for the money. That's not no money, but for the time you're spending. But you want to serve your community. Like I tell people all the time, this is my home. I want it to be the best place there is. I came back here, but I want it to be the best place that we can serve the city of Charleston with. So we need to look at things very seriously now. And we have to take the hit when we have to take the hit, but we have young people want to come to the plate too. Young people want to come on this council too. But they always tell me, what y'all get, that's nothing for me to take on. That little bit of money y'all making, that's nothing. I have too much things to do. So we have to look at it very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'd like to request a roll call vote for this.
that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a roll call vote on the amendment. Okay? The amendment is to go from 20,000 to 25,000, okay? With $2,000 above that for the mayor pro tem. Am I correct?
One more time.
The mayor pro tem, I think as it's written now, will receive $2,000 over the base pay of 25,000. Okay? Okay, we're ready for the roll call.
All right, and if everyone could use their mics when voting. Councilwoman Del Chapo,
No.
Councilmember Shealy, Councilmember Saccharin,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Brady,
Nay.
Councilmember Gregory,
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Councilmember Waring,
aye.
Councilmember Seekings,
Nay.
Councilmember Shea,
Yes.
Councilmember Griffin,
Nay.
Councilmember Appel,
Nay.
Councilwoman Jackson,
No.
Mayor Tecklenburg.
No.
The motion fails.
Okay. The amendment fails, okay? All right, we still have the original piece at 20,000. Do I hear a motion?
I move for approval.
Do I hear a second? Okay. Any further discussion? We're going back to the original, 20,000 based on COLA. If I'm not mistaken, every year that COLA continues to increase, okay? Roll call.
Councilwoman Del Chapo,
No.
Councilmember Shealy,
Aye.
Councilmember Saccharin,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell,
Yes.
Councilmember Brady,
Aye.
Councilmember Gregory,
Aye.
Councilmember Waring,
Aye.
Councilmember Seekings,
Nay.
Councilmember Shade,
Yes.
Councilmember Griffin,
Nay.
Councilmember Appel, Councilwoman Jackson,
Yes.
The motion passed.
Mayor
Oh,
Tecklenburg.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes.
The motion passes.
Now I will call on Chairman Shea, Committee on Real Estate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Real Estate met yesterday afternoon at around 3 o'clock. Items A, B, C, and D were approved unanimously. Item A was an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a First Amendment to lease agreement between the city and the Gilliard Management Corporation. Of note, the amount of rent increases by 50%, I think, after the second year, if I remember that correctly. And I will move to have that adopted by this committee. The second one was a request for authorization for the mayor to execute a contract for deed between the Commissioners of Public Works and the city to purchase 56 Murray Boulevard. This was a very spirited discussion about the benefits of purchasing this property. As I understand it, and maybe Mr. Fountain can enlighten us a little bit about this, but the brick archway tunnel runs right to this particular point. And so if we need to build a pump house or to utilize this property for drainage improvement or stormwater improvement, this will provide that opportunity for us. And I'm going to need to call my fellow committee members to remind me about this. But I think the only thing that we amended on this contract was how to purchase it. And that was to use stormwater funds to do that. And that also got approved unanimously as well.
Question?
Drainage fund.
Drainage fund.
From the drainage funds.
Question. Was there any discussion with regard to CPW giving us the land? We're talking about
So there
water?
was some discussion about us taking the land and doing a reduction in fees we collect from them. There's also discussion regarding delinquent fees as well. But I think this was at the end of the result. Y'all can correct me if I'm misstating this, but to just take that money from that fund.
Councilmember Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. CPW is really working with us as a sister brother organization, if you will. They paid a good portion for this property years ago. And they're even in a way financing it for us with no interest involved, making it pretty easy, hopefully, for us to be able to accommodate the purchase of this and control of this property, which we really need for, it doesn't matter what drainage solutions we come up with for sea level rise, be it the water plan or the wall. We need it for in both instances. So it's a crucial piece of property, and they're making it very accommodating for us to be able to acquire it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any more discussion? Councilmember Griffin.
I'm going to support this tonight, but I do get concerned when we
Get a little closer.
I'm going to support this tonight, but I do get concerned when we use drainage fund money on the peninsula because there are so many different funding sources. I understand if this was the only last resort, but you know, we constantly talk about how in West Ashley we have so few ways to improve drainage, and we have to go into that drainage fund. So I just hope that we can continue to be very prudent in how we spend money out of the drainage fund on the peninsula, which has several more funding sources rather than off of the peninsula.
Any more discussion on this issue?
No, if not,
Chairman
I'll
Shea.
move on to item number C. Item C was also approved unanimously as a resolution to support the Charleston County Greenbelt Program application by the Low Country Land Trust with the Charleston County Aviation Authority regarding about 94 acres of land known as Oakville to be served as a conservation easement. This is just a resolution to get the ball rolling on using those greenbelt funds for this easement. That also was approved unanimously. And finally, we had approved unanimously the annexation application for 1819 Bin Grass Court on James Island in District Jail. I move, Mr. Chairman, that items A, B, C, and D be
Second.
approved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Councilmember.
Yes, I just want to thank you, Chairman Shea, and the members of the Real Estate Committee for moving item C up. And I want to thank the Low Country Land Trust, the South Carolina State Conservation Bank, the Aviation Authority, and everyone that's been involved to help make that possible, especially Councilmember Jackson here on council. It's a great thing to preserve from development, portions of that property that are low-lying, we know don't have any business being built on. And this helps us use a natural feature conserved for stormwater and know that there's not going to be taxpayer money being spent down the line to buy out houses or anything like that. So this is a great use of support for the Greenbelt money, and I want to thank everybody that was involved.
And that, Mr. Chairman, we did not go into executive session. We will defer that to the regular full city council meeting.
Okay.
That's my report.
It's been moved and properly seconded, right? Right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Is there anything else to come before this committee? If
We will
not,
be adjourned.
meetings adjourned.